Good morning, welcome. Thank you all for being here. Obviously, there's a nice amount of space for everybody to spread out, so whatever's comfortable for you, you can sit anywhere in the room. As you'll notice throughout the presentations this week, there were going to be live captions available to anyone who needs them, so I've put them up on the side screens here if you would prefer captions. I know I'm speaking with a mask on. I hoped the mic would be enough to amplify for everybody, but that's an available option for everybody as well. This is also being live streamed through WebEx, so if you'd like to watch sessions that you are not actually participating in, that's okay. We're going to record them all and live stream them so that you're going to be able to watch them after the fact. So again, we've tried to make as many options available to people as possible so that you can participate in whatever way best fits your needs. And again, welcome to Frontiers in Playful Learning 2022, the inaugural session of this particular conference event. Yes, you can clap. We're all very excited to have you. I want to welcome you to UConn, the University of Connecticut, the state of Connecticut's flagship state university. We're very proud of the events we've been able to put together for you this week, and I'm really hopeful that you'll get a chance to walk around campus, see things, assuming weather permits, that it doesn't end up raining too much. And if you haven't been to UConn before, you'll get to see how our campus sort of fits together and forms its own little city here in Storrs, which is obviously far removed from an actual city. So we appreciate you making the trek out here to join us for this particular event. I'm going to go through a couple of different housekeeping items before we really get started with our keynote. First, I wanted to make you aware that your hosts for this week, for Wednesday through Friday, will be myself, Steve Slota. I'm an assistant professor in residence here at UConn in educational technology. My research concerns games and playful learning. So pretty much everything that I do is about designing games or using games to teach. And we're being assisted by our event coordinator, Juliet Capsis, who you met when you registered. So when you walked in the front door, Juliet was there. She will be with us throughout these next 3 days. And if you have any needs, please feel free to contact either of us. I've tried to make myself as distinguishable as possible so that it's really easy to see who I am and what I'm doing. So just flag me down if you need anything along the way. I do want to mention briefly that this event is being sponsored and subsidized by the University of Connecticut's Educational Technology Program, 2 Summers. The 2 Summers program is a 1-year educational technology master's degree and 6th-year degree, or 6-year diploma, certification, whatever the word is that they use for 6 years. And the entire premise is that we work with in-service educators to train them to be wise integrators of technology for their teaching and learning environments. So if you are a teacher and you want to be able to learn some of these tech integration skills, the program is designed specifically for you. And again, we've tried to make sure that everything here is as inexpensive as possible for everybody attending, including being able to provide a live stream and captioning, as well as food services and everything else that's going to go on over the next 3 days. So thank you to UConn 2 Summers and Educational Technology for allowing me to raid your budget to make this possible. All of the information about this event is available on the event website. If you haven't been there in a while, you might notice some changes. This includes the schedule, where every single title of a talk or a session is now a hyperlink. That hyperlink will automatically bring you to the recording or live stream of that session. So again, if you're watching remotely, you can actually click on the link of any given title, and it'll just bring you to that session to be able to watch it in real time, along with closed captioning services being provided. There's also a list of featured projects. So there are a number of games and other resources that have been made available throughout this conference. Several sessions are based on those resources. And if you want to be able to play those games or learn more about them, that's a really good place to check them out. We've also provided a full menu. So all of the food that will be made available to you over the next 3 days is listed there, so you can make selections ahead of time. We tried to be as transparent about that as possible, including listing vegetarian and vegan options. And there is travel and direction information as needed, although all of you made it to ITE, so I'm hopeful that that worked out. Again, if you need to, for any reason, jump out or go to a different session and want to review other sessions, all of that information is hyperlinked in the list of events throughout the next 3 days. I also wanted to make you aware of social media stuff, since some folks will be using Twitter, or if you'd like to use Discord, we have a Discord server. I created a tiny URL for our Discord, although if you go to the event website, there is just a direct link you can click on the homepage that will automatically populate you into the Discord server. There is a Twitter handle at Frontiers_2022. And we're using the hashtag FPL22. Again, that's hashtag FPL22 if you want to be able to share photos or video or thoughts about whatever you're watching. We are actually going to encourage folks to ask questions of our plenary discussants. So the folks who are on stage will be waiting for questions from all of you. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But if you have open-ended thoughts or ideas or questions, please feel free to tag me in them on Twitter as well. My handle is @SteveSlota. And I will respond to them, or I will try to catch you somewhere while we're walking around throughout the next 3 days. Okay. So really, when I started planning this a year ago, actually almost exactly a year ago now, the real reason I ended up doing that was because I was bored. It had been a pandemic for a year. I had decided now that the semester had ended, the spring semester was over, I needed something to do with my time other than twiddle my thumbs and play video games because my brain was just too hyperactive. And I thought, wouldn't it be nice if we could go back to doing in-person conferences again? I'd really missed seeing many of you who are actually here. And this seemed like a really great opportunity to bring together folks within this community to talk more about what we value, why we value it, and not just look at games as being sort of this broad spectrum, but instead focusing on teaching and learning with games or with storytelling in particular. So I started to fashion out 3 goals with the help of some of my colleagues. That included energizing scholarly discourse, so moving away from sort of the incorporation of industry. There's been a lot of focus on the relationship between industry and higher education. We wanted to talk about what is the research on this really saying? What are we doing as academics to integrate a lot of these tools into our own classes to make our students' experiences more effective, more engaging? I also wanted to reconnect people who were part of this community, either prior to or wanted to become part of that community, especially focused on the scholarly side of things. And I also wanted to provide an open-ended, playful context for all of this. So you'll notice that our schedule is actually quite different than most event schedules for this sort of conference. In the morning, we have traditional sessions with plenary discussions and a keynote and presentations that'll take place upstairs. But then we break out into an unconference, which I'm going to talk a little bit about momentarily. And in the evening from 4 o'clock to 10 o'clock p.m., we have a community arcade set up in the Wilbur Cross building outside and about 400 feet away from where we're currently sitting. And the reason for that is we wanted to give everyone an opportunity to network and play board games and video games and hang out and really make good on all of the things we've missed out on over the last 2 years. So it's just an opportunity to talk to one another about what it is we do. And that's kind of the nature of a small conference versus having one with hundreds of people or thousands of people, is that you actually can have this one-on-one interaction with everybody who's physically present. So we do encourage you to talk to folks you don't know. Say hi. Nobody's going to bite, I don't think. And I'm really looking forward to getting a chance to talk to all of you individually myself as someone who wanted to host you and really tried to do everything I could to bring you all to campus for this purpose. So those are my 3 goals for the next 3 days. And hopefully you'll find some commonality in those goals and want to fulfill them as well. I look forward to talking to all of you about how we can make these things continue forward. And I will say briefly that one of the sessions, the unconference sessions I had planned to promote tomorrow, was going to be about, should we do this again in the future? So right now, this is our inaugural event. We haven't done this before, but we wanted to talk about with all of you whether this is something you would be interested in doing again on an annual or biannual basis to bring us all back together as needed to keep having these conversations and keep them going. Very briefly about COVID protocols. I am currently wearing a mask, but I have a microphone on. All the classrooms that are upstairs for the sessions also have microphones, so it is up to you as a presenter as to whether you want to wear a mask while you present. We all know that COVID did not just disappear. It's still here with us, and we have to make some risk mitigation strategy decisions about how we're going to deal with that. Obviously, we've tried to book rooms that are large enough to accommodate the number of people we have here, and I will note that everyone who's present in the room right now is not the totality of everyone who will be attending. We have people who have to come shifting in and out. So it will be greater or smaller numbers depending on the time of day. That's why we tried to provide everyone with an N95 mask. They're all NIOSH certified. So if you need a mask, we're happy to provide them. If at any point you feel unwell or just want to test yourself to make sure that you're okay, we do have particular tests available for you. You can just ask myself or Juliet, and we'll get you a rapid test so you can go through and make sure you're okay. And we're going to recommend that if the weather holds, that you're able to go eat outdoors just to get some additional ventilation, although we are very grateful to be in spaces that are generally well ventilated. So you'll have noticed this particular building is fairly new. It has a good HVAC system, and we're hoping that that'll mitigate some of the risk that we're all taking on. Okay, so schedule overview. The first 2 days are going to look more or less the same. The morning is a little bit different just because we have a keynote speaker this morning who I will introduce shortly. And generally speaking, it's going to follow a format where everything before lunch is a traditional conference. If you've been to a conference before, you know that usually there are multiple breakout sessions simultaneously. You pick the one that you want to go to. You can sit in on that. We have some breaks built in to use the restroom. So there are restrooms upstairs to either side of the stairwell. And there's also going to be snacks available. So there are chips and Fig Newtons and candy and whatever else you want, some drinks as well. And we'll try to make those available throughout the day to anyone who wants something. After we break for lunch in the afternoons, there will be an unconference session. So I'll walk you through what an unconference is or how that works for anyone who hasn't done it before. But frankly, I like them a lot. They're very flexible and they cater to the audience who is actually participating or present. And then again, from 4 to 10 o'clock, there will be a community arcade where you can go and meet other people, play board games, video games, use VR, whatever it is you'd like to do. And that'll be over in the Wilbur Cross Center. Dinner will also take place in that space, and we've divided the room so that half the room is for eating and half the room is for game playing, although you are encouraged and welcome to go outdoors if you'd like to do so. Same thing will be true tomorrow, and then on Friday, after lunch, we just depart. We'll be all set, and so there won't be an unconference that afternoon. The community arcade will just be for today and tomorrow. And again, the whole schedule is available online at frontiers.education.uconn.edu. I know that's kind of a mouthful. But if you want to check out something that you couldn't see live, you can go back and we will put up recordings of those particular sessions so that you can catch up on them. Okay, these are the important locations. The first one is ITE, the Information Technologies Building. That's where we are right now. And this is where breakfast is going to be today, tomorrow, and Friday. This is also where we will have our keynote and plenary discussions. And again, we do encourage everybody to attend these sessions. We really do want everybody to participate who would like to participate. We'll also do our presentations and workshops here and our unconference sessions here. Now, when we start planning the unconference, this will be sort of our base of operation. We're going to come here to do our proposal and voting on those things, and then we'll break out to the same classrooms we're using for the presentations later in the day. On a Friday afternoon, we're also going to do some closing remarks. So rather than just having everybody go to the last session and leave, we did want to bring you all back and say goodbye and find out what you thought about the previous 3 days as to whether or not this is something you'd like to pursue in the future. For lunch, there is a student union marketplace that we're going to go to. Everybody with your badge, you should have gotten a guest card. That guest card holds $13.50. So you can go over to the student union marketplace, the Union Street Market, I believe it's what it's called, and you can buy up to $13.50 on our dime to be able to feed yourself. If you'd like anything more than that, you're welcome to it. Although, as I mentioned, we have free snacks and drinks available to you beyond what's available for lunch. So we're hoping that we cover everybody's needs. And then for the evening, afternoon and evening, we'll be over in the Wilbur Cross building, which is the original UConn library. It's one of the oldest buildings on campus, and it has the big gold dome on top of it. So if you walk over to that building, it'll be just about 400 feet from here. There's going to be a narrow hallway you go through past the registrar and bursar's office. And on the left-hand side, there's a giant open room where we have all of our games and dinner set up for you. There will be hors d'oeuvres between 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock, as well as drinks. When you get there, Juliet will be able to assign you your drink tickets. So you're going to get 2 free drinks on us, beer or wine. And you will have access to that until about 6:45 when dinner ends. And then the remainder of the evening is yours to do what you'd like. So again, we encourage you to stick around for all of those activities just because that's when the most fun happens. And we're really looking forward to getting a chance to talk to everybody as we engage in those events. Okay, so this is how the unconference sessions are going to work. This afternoon at 2 o'clock, we're all going to convene in here. So we'll all come back from lunch. We'll come back from the other activities we're doing. We're going to come back to this room, and you'll notice that there is a big pad of easel paper. We're going to tape these to the wall, and everybody can grab a Sharpie and propose whatever you'd like to talk about. So essentially, you'll have the opportunity to say, I want to talk about games for teaching art, or I want to talk about games for teaching math, or I want to talk about storytelling in the context of physics. All of those things would be options available to you. And from throughout that time, people will be able to vote using stickers. So we have colored stickers that we're going to give everybody. You can vote for up to 3 of these sessions, and whichever 3 get the most votes will then be offered upstairs as presentations or group discussions. So what does that look like? Here's my sample, okay? So on the left-hand side, you can see I've come up with 3 topics. First, we had Ewoks, what are they really? We have Tolkien versus Sanderson versus Martin, and then we have the history of pickles. So after those had been proposed on our easel paper, you would take your colored stickers and then place your stickers next to the titles that you're most interested in or the topics you're most interested in. And then you'll see that according to this little diagram, Ewoks, what are they really, is the one that got the most votes. And so that's the session that would then be offered, and people can choose which of those they'd like to go to. Again, we have enough space to do 3 of these concurrently. So the top 3 vote-getting topics will be the ones that we break out into. And I will update the schedule on the website to reflect whichever topics get discussed. So in the event that you get halfway through one of them and you decide you want to go jump into another session, you can do that. And the information will be available to you on the website as to which topic is in which space. Does anyone have any questions about how that works? Yes, please.
Or that if you were one people that voted for a session that not make cut, find your other 2 colleagues, step outside and talk about the thing you wanted to talk about. So that's the beauty of topics that don't make the colleagues to have that find the other.
Yeah, thank you. So just to reiterate what Clarissa was just saying, if you decide with 2 other people that your topic doesn't get selected as the most voted or one of the breakout sessions, you are free to then go and have that conversation regardless. You can find a space and do that. You can go outside, etc. The reason why we are assigning to those 3 classroom spaces is purely because those will be streamed spaces and will have captioning available for them. So those are sort of the official unconference sessions, but you, again, are free to do whatever you'd like. I mean, if you want to grab another person and go sit outside and have a drink and talk about whatever it is that you're doing in your own classroom, that's also acceptable. So really, it is designed to be as flexible as possible for the people who are in attendance to get them whatever they need to feel fulfilled by this. Okay. The last thing I wanted to mention before we move on to our keynote, we have a plenary discussion survey. So I've created a QR code to make it a little bit easier to get to if you're in the audience here. If you'd like to use the tiny URL, you can do that as well. But the goal of this is going to be to get questions generated for our plenary discussions. So after our keynote this morning, we're going to have a short break of about 15 minutes. I, as the facilitator, am going to aggregate the questions that have been submitted for this morning's session, and then we'll use those as the basis for the discussion among the panel participants. So, for example, this morning's plenary discussion is going to be about Courtroom 600, which is a virtual reality experience centered on the histories and legacy of the Holocaust. I've provided some information about the speakers as well as the topic in that discussion survey. Tomorrow's session is going to focus on a topic we've titled Oh, the Humanity, which is all about the role of the humanities in games and playful education. We'll have a different set of discussants available to talk about that. And ideally, I'd like all of you to be able to ask some questions of them as well. And then on Friday, we're going to have one about the big picture, which is essentially where do we go from here as people who care about games, play, storytelling, and teaching and learning. So it'll give you an opportunity to ask experts, people who are scholars in the realm of thinking about the future of games and education. What do you think is going to happen going forward, or what should happen? And again, we encourage you all to submit as many questions as you want. You are not limited to just one. And the more of them you submit, the more we can kind of focus on or tailor the discussions to the things you care about, as opposed to just having people talk about the projects themselves. So we do encourage you, to the extent possible, that you submit some things. You don't have to submit questions for all of them, but again, we appreciate the extent to which we can tailor this for you. And that brings me to the last component of my introduction here. So we're going to get started with our keynote. You might have noticed a couple of weeks ago, there was a publication in the New Yorker about LARPing goes to Disney World, which was sort of prescient or very well timed, considering the fact that we were going to have this discussion this week. You might have heard about this particular activity at the Disney World parks over the last couple of years as it's been in development. But Disney opened a theme park called Galaxy's Edge, which is entirely Star Wars themed. So if you're like me and you're super into Star Wars, that was a very exciting development because for the first time you could go be in Star Wars. You could participate as someone who dresses in costume or plays a character or gets to build your own lightsaber or joins the Resistance or joins the First Order or whatever it is that you want to do in that narrative space. And space is not a pun intended, by the way. In addition to Galaxy's Edge, Disney had constructed an entire facility, an entire hotel that is built around the idea of essentially LARPing or live action role play, where you can go and be a character who is participating in this story. Yes, we get the devil horns there for rocking out. I personally have not yet got to go, but I know several members of the 501st Legion who are all cosplayers who do charity work. They dress as stormtroopers and such to go to parades and different kinds of fundraising events. Several of them have gotten to go. And actually, these are photos from one of the individuals that I know who happened to be there 2 weeks ago. So in this hotel, it's designed to look like a galactic star cruiser, which is its name. And the entire idea is that you get to go be a participant in Star Wars. You are somebody who is watching events unfold and then gets to exert agency in that space. You are invited to participate as much or as little as you want. There are some things that are scheduled and staged. There are other things that are emergent storytelling based on your own character as it's developed. And one of the nice things about this, from what I've understood, is that the actors who are working with you, the employees of Disney, will then start to incorporate your characters into this story as it's unfolding. And so you become co-authors or co-participants in the storytelling process as relates to Star Wars. That's incredibly exciting to somebody like me. Like, I think that's the dream I had as a child. And in fact, a few of my colleagues who happen to be here, we tried to write a grant to the university giving us to get us to get money to be able to go do this ourselves as a research excursion, which the university said was not a great use of their money, but I disagree. But the reason why I bring all this up is because we're incredibly fortunate to have the individual responsible for helping create this LARPing experience through the Galactic Star Cruiser here with us. Caro Murphy will be our keynote speaker. So just briefly to introduce Caro. Caro is the Immersive Experience Director for the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser, also the co-founder of the Boston Festival of Indie Games. It has experience as the co-executive director of the Playable Theater Company and Incantrix Productions. And so I wanted to hear from Caro, what was it like to develop this sort of thing? What is it like to think about immersive interactive experiences? How did all of these different kinds of jobs / passions come together to develop something like the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser experience? And generally speaking, how do you think about the role of education or training or play in these spaces? How do those things come together and fuse into something that we can all participate in? So without further ado, I want to introduce Caro Murphy. We're going to take a second to set up the computer here. And if you are watching remotely, please note you're going to have to switch your WebEx session from the opening remarks WebEx link to the next one down, which is the keynote. But yes, without further ado, let's welcome Caro Murphy.